What's up, everyone? Just want to introduce my boy, Prison Yard TV. He's from Sacramento, California, and it's a real special one, man. He was one of the first Mexican Crips, and he's here to share his story and to let you know what he went through. So, it's the very first interview I'm doing on this channel. Uh, I got a banger for you guys. So, introduce yourself, my brother.
So my name is Donnie. I go by Junior, and people in prison and people from my neighborhood call me Dog. I really don't like that name no more because I never dropped out, but I really ain't. I'm 55. I'm really not in the streets like that no more. I'm still good in my neighborhood. I'm in my neighborhood right now, matter of fact. And I did. You said I was the first Mexican Crip, but I wasn't the first Mexican Crip. I was the first non-black Crip. Well, I don't want to say that because there was eight. I was the first half Mexican Crip in California Department of Corrections in 1989. When I got there, all my relatives, my uncles, my cousins are Norteños, and a couple of my uncles was really high up on the totem pole. If you guys know what I mean, they're they was them letters. So when I got there, I came from YA to prison. I went from YA to Vacaville to DVI. Back in '89, DVI was I know people don't like. Everyone talks shit. Gladiator. Why does everyone say they was at Gladiator School? But in '89, Tracy DVI was really Gladiator School. I got there. A couple of my uncles were there. They tried to make me lateral over to be a Norteño, and I just couldn't do that. So I remained a Crip throughout my whole CDC history. I had an E number. Um, and I got out in 2018, not from '89, but I've been back and forth. I got 28 years in. But yeah, I was. I went through a lot. I had to prove myself when I first got to prison, and it wasn't that I wanted to or anything, but I came from CYA. So in CYA, you fight constantly. So I thought that's what prison was about, Sam, man. Prison's not about fighting, bro. And if you are gonna fight, you can't fight whites, uh, Southern Mexicans, you can't fight no one but your own people. But me, I was tested so many times by Northerners, and I think it had to do with my uncles and my cousins. So I fought a lot of Northerners, and then as time went by, of course, Southerners didn't like that I was half Hispanic and claiming Crip. So I fought a lot of Southerners, and I got, and see why I had to stab a Southerner. That's why I got sent to prison from CY. And
Okay.
it's nothing to be proud of or nothing to brag about. Everyone that been in California prison system, if you're on an active yard, especially a level 4, you're gonna stab somebody or you're gonna be stabbed. So, like I said, it's nothing to be proud of, bro. But that's a little bit about uh who I am and who I was and my prison history. I don't really like talking about my prison history because there's so many things that come to my mind when I think about that. But I was the first Mexican Crip in prison in California. That I've done my research, and a lot of people, whites, blacks, I mean whites, Hispanics, get on here, and they're like, "Oh, this dude was a white Crip. He's the first white Crip." Bro, I think the first white Crip that I ever met in prison was Rob Dog from East Coast Crip, Stockton. Um, and he goes by Super Cuz now, and he had to prove himself way more than me because he's white, and the whites hate that. I mean, white Crips. Um, and he's never rolled it up that I know about. And I've seen him get tested several times. He handled his business. I never seen him lose a fight. Um, but like I said, in prison, bro, now, especially nowadays, 2000s and not in the 90s, uh, uh, a black Crip couldn't fight a northerner or a southerner or a white without a riot jumping off immediately. Back then, you could get away with it. Like if I wanted to fight a northerner, I would go to or I would send someone to they people and set it up. We'd go in a cell, we'd do something and get out. Southerner, white boy, same thing. But now in 2024, You can't do nothing like that. You gotta, it'll cause a riot that's gonna spill over to other institutions. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Especially, you know what's going on with the Northerners and the Southerners. They're all eating together, playing handball together. I never seen that because I was never in prison during that time. I got out in 2018 or 2017 or 16. They let all them dudes out of Pelican Bay, and things changed. And I went home right after that, so I wasn't there. Uh, Fortunately, I wasn't there to see it because being from a black gang or a white gang, you got to really be worried about your life if all the Mexicans are together.
Yeah,
There's more Mexicans in prison than anything. If you put them
especially California.
together, if you put them together, all it takes is one black dude to uh to disrespect a northerner or southerner, or one white dude or a northerner or southerner to be drunk, and it's going up. And the Mexicans are going to win because all Mexicans got knives, right? In prison, out of prison. Well, blacks, I can't speak about the whites. Well, I can actually, but the blacks in California prison system, they like to fight. Um, a lot of them carry knives, but BGF, we call them JAMMA. They definitely got knives around them, Coombe, Bloods, and Crips. But to be like, I'm gonna go to the yard and get down with this dude, and you don't got a knife, something's wrong. But blacks do that. Blacks will try to fight you, and you'll have a knife. And it's an ugly situation, man. I'm so glad to be free, Sam, man.
Mm-hmm.
I've been out 6 years, bro. March 18th was 6 years I've been home,
Good.
and I've never been home this long since I was 13 years old. There, the most I've ever stayed out since I was 13 was 2 years. And 1 year I was out on parole, and then I started running, and I ran for a year. So I was out 2 years, half of it on the run and half of it on parole. So I'm very blessed to be out this long, and I plan on staying out this long. I mean, staying out long. I don't plan on going back to prison, bro. I have been back since I've been home to jail for a DUI. Um, and when I got there, I was sick to my stomach. Just the smell, the food, all the shit. It's just ugly, man.
Mm-hmm.
So jail and me aren't compatible no more.
Good.
Before before it was nothing for me to catch a violation. I did 9 years of parole violations, bro. Um, so it was that was my home. This was my vacation spot on the streets. I spent more time in prison. So if they sent me back to prison back then, it was like normal to me. Now, if they send me to
Yeah.
prison, it's gonna be I'm gonna probably cry, bro, to be honest with you. I mean, my kids, I got grandkids now. I got an elderly mom, and I need to be home. So I do bare minimum to I do everything I can to stay out of jail. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do to live. I'm gonna leave it at
Okay,
that.
I got you.
Everybody don't have that frame of mind like me, and I think I was bred that I was taught that way. So of course, I do own a company, a tree company, but it's been pretty slow. So I can't pay my bills off of that. So yeah, I dip and dab in, um, cannabis, mushrooms, shit like that. Nothing heavy,
Legal stuff. Everything,
legal
but
stuff.
that's all legal in California, so you're not breaking the law.
Yeah.
But
Um,
oh, go ahead, man.
no, I was just gonna tell you to speak and ask me some questions. You wanna?
Yeah, I was gonna. So you've been going in and out since you were 13, man. What was it like, when you can remember, like when you started seeing gangsters in the hood? Was it like the cars, the women, the drugs, the power, the money? What was it that
None of that. None of that. My family. I don't want to say. So my family. I don't come from a gang family. Um, except on my dad. So when I say my uncles and cousins, I'm talking about not my immediate family. I'm talking about my dad married this chick when I was probably 10 or 11. My mom and dad got a divorce when I was 7. He married this chick, and all her brothers were Northerners in them letters, and all my cousins on that side are Northerners. So when I say family, I mean them guys, but they're not really blood family. Now my blood family, my cousins, uncles, none of them been to prison but me. And I come from a family that gangs aren't really. It's a bad taste in their mouth. My mom didn't know I was a Crip until 2000. I was in trial on the case I just got out for, and the judge, when I got found guilty, started telling the history of me. And my mom, he said I was a gang leader. And my mom she came to visit me. She's like, "Why'd that judge say you was in a gang and you're a leader?" And I'm like, I looked at her and I was like, "You don't even know your son. I've been a gang member since I was 13 years old." And she's like, "Is that why you guys always say cuz on the phone?" I said, "That ain't the only, I talk to my cousins, but I wear blue all the time. I say cuz all my friends are Crips. They come say, how do you not know?" And I think my mom
She knew.
probably knew kind of, but she didn't want to believe it.
Yeah.
So, like I said, my family, uh, I was the first one to go to, the only one that went to prison. Now my oldest son, he been to prison. Um, but I don't come from I didn't have to be a gang member, bro. And you asked me a question, and I'm gonna answer it, and it's gonna sound very stupid. So the reason why I went to prison and I became a gang member is because so let me back up. When I was 13, 14 years old, um, when I was in 1983, I believe, my neighborhood started. 29th Street Garden Block Crip started. I want to say summer of '83, and it was like the color blue. I always liked the color blue, but there was no Bloods around my area. Like Meadowview Bloods is right next to us, but there was no Meadowview Bloods. I became a gang member and I went to prison. I knew I was going to prison at 14 years old, and the reason why is because I was at my grandfather been to prison. Oh, my grandfather been to prison for 3 years for selling heroin. I take that back, and I didn't find that out till I was out of prison 3 or 4 times, and they told me. But I was at my grandparents' house one day, and my grandfather was watching this movie, and it was a prison movie, and I believe the prison was in Chicago. It was around the prison building was round, and it had 5 stories, and it was crazy. And I watched that movie, and I told my grandpa, I said, "I'm 14, bro." I said, "I want to go see what that's like at 14."
Damn.
And
I
he was
think I
like,
know what
"What? Huh?"
I think I know what prison you're talking about, the Chicago one. It's like a
I,
dome.
is it Attica or
That's New York. I think it's Stateville, something like that.
I don't know, but I seen that movie at 14, bro, and I wanted to go see what prison was like. And
Mm.
it's crazy for me to say that now, my mindset back then, but that's just what I felt. I see these big old buff dudes in there, and they was punking people, and I was like, I could do, I would. So there's sharks and there's suckers in there, and I knew from a young age I wasn't a sucker. I knew that
Hmm.
nothing scared me, and it was like I shouldn't have felt that way at 14. I should have been a kid, a teenager growing up. But
Yep.
that's the reason why I knew I was going to prison at 14 years old, and it's crazy to even think that, even saying it out my mouth, it seems like it's if my son told me that when he was 14, I probably slapped the shit out of him. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But that's why I believe I was in. I was very interested in the prison life.
Did did you know? So you saw that movie. Did you know anything though about the California type of politics and all that stuff?
So I started hearing about California prison system through, like I said, my uncles were all Norteños, and they'd leave for 2 or 3 years or a year and come back, or we'd pick them up in prison, and they would start telling me about stuff, and I was like, and I'd ask questions. I was impressed by that shit, and it's not a good thing to be impressed by. They glorified it.
Yeah, of course.
They like they wasn't scared, and they it was like fuck, man, and it made me that way. So I knew, man, and it's sad that I knew I was going to prison at 14, but I knew I was. And once I got there, well, YA to me, YA was harder than any prison I've been to, bro.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you first, what was it that you got off the porch at 13, 14, right? What is it that you got into first? Was it selling drugs that sent you to YA? Was it fighting? What happened?
I think I've always sold. I can't even think when I didn't sell drugs, bro. Or so okay. So in junior high school, right here where I'm in a place in my neighborhood, and right where I'm at used to be a little market, a barbershop, a skating ring, a shoe store, and they used to sell candy and shit and video games. And I would leave seventh grade, John Steele, and I come up. It ain't here no more. It's a community center now. But I would leave, run up here, and steal all this candy, and go back to school and sell it.
Dude, I
I
used to
was
do something similar.
That's
You know,
crazy. But
with
then
pizza.
in the eighth grade, uh, I started selling weed,
Mm.
and and I didn't smoke weed. I barely started smoking weed, bro. Uh, in the last 3 years, I was in a weed head. All
Hmm.
my friends were, but I liked alcohol. So I started selling weed in the eighth grade, and me and my brother, not my real brother, but my play brother, we used to go and we used to rob people's weed plants, dry it out in the oven.
Mm.
And back then it was Colombian gold and pie stick.
Yeah, it's tie sticks and all that stuff.
And I used to go to 29th Street Apartments, Flora Meadows Apartments after school and sell nickel bags up there in the eighth grade. Um, I think I started selling crack in 1980. In the mid 80s, I started selling crack
How is the
in
crack
Elder Creek.
dealing with the and where?
And it's called Elder Creek. It's the Creek Mob. It's another gang hood. But my play brother, his mom lived over there, and we sold crack over there. And
Mm.
you know, crank crank didn't come. I didn't start selling crank until I was 18.
Well,
And
real quick, I wanted to ask you about the crack epidemic in the mid '80s. Like, what was it like, man? Was it like the opioid crisis nowadays, or was it worse? Or
bro, I know you wasn't around then, right?
yeah.
But crack, we used to stand out in front of houses and shit, and cars would come through like it was a drive-through. Like there'd be 20 of us out there, and we'd all have a sack, and we'd run up to the car and try to get the sale. You know what? We all had our
Mm.
personal customers, and we had beepers back then, pagers.
Yeah.
But was no cell phones. But thinking back, every neighborhood in Sacramento, every neighborhood had crack spots. And it was like all night long till 6 in the morning we'd sell crack. And it was crazy, bro. That yeah, it was worse than the epidemic now because the epidemic now, um, you got to go to homeless camps to get fentanyl and heroin and shit. They might be living in tents, but they got sacks. They're balling shit because that's the community that uses.
Yep.
So
Yep.
they don't have people on corners in Garden Block or Oak Park or Del Paso Heights or Meadowview selling fentanyl and heroin like we did. They got homeless camps or people sold out their homes, but it ain't like I think it was the crack era was the worst, bro. More than heroin, fentanyl, crank,
Crystal.
crystal.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. But I'm gonna tell you, more people when I came home this time and in prison. When I left the prison, blacks didn't use crank or crystal. They sold it. When I
Mm-hmm.
came home this time, bro, everybody was on crystal. Blacks, people's grandmas, um, every race, Chinese,
Mm-hmm.
and now I think it's fentanyl in crystal still. But
Yeah.
yeah, that hey, you're bringing me back a long way right now with these questions. You're
The,
making me really think about the 80s, bro. And
yeah.
and and I was a kid, but I moved out of my mom's house when I was 13.
Damn.
13 years old. And my mom, I kind of played her because after the eighth grade, the summer after the eighth grade, my dad's mom, I call her Nanny. Um, I was her favorite. And I told my mom I'm moving with my nanny for the summer to do a paper route. That's how I got out of my mom's house. I never went back home after I moved in with her, changed high school. I went to an all blood high school
Oh shit. How was that?
in Oak Park. So
Oh
I'm
no.
yeah. So I'm young, and my girlfriend at the time went to another blood school, Hiram Johnson. So I used to I used to steal my dad's car. My cousin then went to McClatchy with me. Used to let me use his car in the ninth grade, and I go pick her up from Johnson. And I got in several fights at them schools because of who I was and what I claimed. But yeah, I got off the porch at 13, bro, and I don't even know how I did it because thinking back, if my kids, any one of my four kids, would try to leave home at 13 and go live with their grandma, I wouldn't. I would have let them go for
Yeah.
the summer. But now I'm thinking back, my mom let me leave at 13, bro. And it's
It was a
like,
different time too back then, you know?
yeah, but bro, I don't
Yeah,
think
no,
my
I
mom.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah, and my mom was a great mom when I was
Hmm.
there. She always worked for the state. My dad was a pilot at Cessna Citation Airport, so my family wasn't poor. So the gangs and the drug selling drugs was something that I seen and I wanted for myself. Um, Nowadays, since then, being 54 now, I became a hustler. And when people say hustler, they think that's a bad thing, but I know how to make money 1,000 ways different than selling drugs.
Hmm.
So there's so many things you could do with the internet, all kind of stuff to make money now. So
Hmm.
selling drugs, um, played out kind of to me. It still makes money, but
Too easy to get caught now.
if
You
you're
know?
dealing with cannabis and mushrooms, they ain't got to really worry. I got pulled over since I've been home, and I had 5 pounds of weed in my car. Check this out. I was taking 5 pounds of weed to somebody, and I got pulled over between my hood and Oak Park. I got pulled over, and my brother told me weed is legal. If you get pulled over weed, they don't even take you to jail no more. Bro, I didn't believe that shit until
Mhm.
2020. I get pulled over with 5 pounds of weed. 1 pound is in my back seat, 4 pounds is in my trunk. The cop came up. He he was like, I gave my license. He it was two cops. The other cop told me to step out. I was out there talking to him on the lawn, and we was talking about my tree company because they found my cards, and he wanted a tree cut. He was telling me he wanted a tree cut, right? Then they ran my name, and when
Oh.
they ran my name, everything changed. Their demeanor, uh, everything was like. That's when they told me to get out the car, sit on the lawn with my legs crossed, and he couldn't search my car, but he got the flashlight. He's like, "What's that in your back seat under that jacket?" I said, "Oh, some weed." He said, "Marijuana." I said, "Yeah." He's like, "How much do you have in here?" I said, "Probably like 2 or 3 pounds." He was like, "Where's it at?" I said, "Well, this is like a quarter. It was a whole pound right here." I said, "That's like a quarter right there, but it was really vacuum sealed." And I said, "I think I got 2 or 3 in the truck." So he opened it up, and 1 pound was open in the trunk. He looked at it. He said, "Where'd you get this from?" I said, I grew it." He said, "You don't know what you're doing, do you?" I said, what? He said, this is some bullshit right here.
Oh
And I
my
looked at
God.
it like a cop told me this. And I'm like, what? He's like, this ain't good weed at all. And I'm like, oh yeah. So I'm thinking any second now another cop's gonna pull up. They're gonna search my car, everything. Um, but that never happened. He didn't even. I think he gave me a ticket for no license plate in the front. That's why he pulled me over. And he told me to have a nice day. And he took a handful of the weed and put it in his pocket and said,
Oh
he said, "Do you have a problem with this?" I'm like, "Shit, hell no, you could have
no,
one of those." And he's like,
no.
"I don't want none of this bullshit." But he took a
Oh my
handful, right?
God.
And
Yeah,
from that moment on, I knew I had to learn the cannabis business.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, I've always sold hard drugs, bro, and that made me that surprised the shit out of me. Um, but yeah,
yeah.
ever since I can remember, I sold some kind of drugs, man. What? Yeah, yeah, 9 ounces of coke and okay, yeah. So I went to YA as an M number. Do you know what that is?
Uh, it's higher custody for YA or something, right? Or like
No,
they'll send you to prison if you fuck up.
no. So
Oh,
I
okay.
was already over age. I was either 18 or 19 when they sent me to Y. So what they do is if you've never been in trouble before, like prison or YA or state time, they send you to prison for a 90-day op
Hmm.
to observe you to see if you'll do good in prison, or they could send you to CYA as an adult. But if you mess up, they send you back to prison, right? So I
Hmm.
went as the M number as an adult. So I wasn't. I was a prisoner. I was in California prison, but they housed me in YA because I was so young,
Hmm.
and I didn't want to go to YA. All my friends from my neighborhood went to YA, and I knew about YA. I wanted to go to prison, but they sent me to fucking YA, and they sent me to NRCC dorm 7. And anyone knows dorm 7 is you do your time at the reception center because you don't have that much. So I got sent to 2 or 3 years in California prison for 9 ounces of cocaine, and I already had like 5 arrests for stolen cars as an adult. So, and
Damn.
I was out on bail on all them. Then I got caught with 9 ounces. It wasn't even mine. I didn't even know it was in the car. And of course, the
Oh
guy
man.
driving didn't say it was his. It was under my seat, the passenger seat. I didn't know it was there. So I couldn't say nothing. So they combined my GTAs, the 9 ounces, and they offered me a 2 or 3 year deal. California Youth Authority. I jumped on it. So that's why I went to CYA. 9 ounces of soft cocaine and like 3 cases of stolen car. And that was 1988. And I went to Youth Authority in 89. And I went to prison in 89 because I was only in Youth Authority like 8 months. And I had to stab a South Sider. It didn't have nothing to do with me. It had something to do with my northerner cousin. So I did it for him. He didn't even help me. I stabbed the dude, his enemy, a Southsider, and he just let me get jumped by 3 of them. So
What?
yeah, yeah. So
Oh
anyway, that's why I
man.
went to prison and why for drugs and stolen cars. And then after that, I went for everything under the sun. I've been to prison, bro, 7 times on 7 new cases.
Let's um let's start with the first one, man. What was your first case? So you stabbed a dude, and that was your first. Did you get a
The
case for
first
that?
time, no, the first time I went to prison to
Hmm.
CYA was uh, grand theft auto cars and 9 ounces of cocaine.
Okay.
Then when I went to prison, I came home from prison, and my first case was, I mean, my second case was, let me see, that was GTA. My second case was, I think
Well,
I got, huh?
just let's go through you going to prison for the very first time you leave YA. You're getting to where you wanted to go. Was it everything you thought it would be?
I got in trouble my first week there, bro, with the
Oh.
whites. Um, so I had a YA mentality. I was 19 or 20, and I get to Vacaville, and they put me on the reception center side, the green side, and they put me in a fucking dorm. I think it was like 20 people in there, 25 people. And back then the beds had springs. It wasn't a cookie sheet.
Mm.
Springs make good weapons, ice picks. So I get to fucking Vacaville. I want to say 89. Yeah, 89. And they put me in this dorm, and I got two homies in there, Big G Man and and Andre Dre. So I get in there, and there's a Metaview Blood, two Metaview Bloods, a few Oak Park cats, me, and then whites. So I get in there, and it's March. It's March Madness, right? I like basketball. So there's one TV. You can't buy a TV on the reception side. So there's one TV in there, and there's this old white man that killed his wife. He's in there for killing his wife. His name's Mr. Seeley. And back then when I was 20, he was probably 50 something.
Damn.
He owned jewelry stores in San Francisco, so he had a lot of money. His bunk was one bunk over from me, and he used to buy all these cans of tobacco and have these white dudes and black dudes rolling his cigarettes for him, and he would give them, you know, part of the tobacco. So I knew he had money. So I'm watching March Madness one morning. A few people's up, a lot of people sleep. He gets up and changes the TV to Pink Panther.
Oh.
And I'm cool with this guy, right? So I'm like, Mr. Silly, what's up, man? He's like, I watch this every Sunday or whatever it was. And I'm like, bro, I'm watching March Madness, and I go turn the TV back up to March Madness. I go to the bathroom, I come back out, it's back on Pink Panther. So I tell him, I'm like, look, bro, if you touch this TV again, I'm a slap the shit out of you. You don't supposed to talk like that to another race or another gang, right? So he looks at me, he puts his glasses down. He said, oh, really? Oh, really, youngster? I'm like, I just look at him, and I'm doing something by my bunk. I look up, and he's sitting right in front of the TV in a chair, like very close, and he got Pink Panther on. When I say something, then I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do it. So I walk up to him, I turn his chair, and I slap the shit out of him, and his glasses fly out.
Oh.
Well, I slapped him, and everybody put their head up out of their blanket. They looked up, and they don't know what happened. I'm back at my bunk, right? Mr. Silly's looking for his glasses. So the blood dude from Metaview, I grew up with, his name is Robert Mass. My homies didn't even come tell me this. The blood dude came over there. He said, hey, you got to roll him up now. Bro, I don't even know what that means at this time. I never heard that, and why I never heard that before. So I'm like, all right. He said, at dinner time, you're going to roll him up. Bro, I feel so stupid telling you this right now. Everybody went to dinner. I stayed back in the dorm, and I got his mattress, and I rolled it up, and I got his locker, and I put it by the door, and I put his mattress on his door. That's what I thought they meant by rolling it up, right? So when they all came back from chow, his bunk and his shit was by the door, and he looks, and he gets his mattress, he puts it back on his bunk, and Robert and my homies come over there, the blood dude, and they're like, dog, you got to stab that dude. I'm like, what? I go home in a year and a half. I only got, and they're like, you got to roll him up. In the meantime, all the whites are over there in the corner grouped up, and there's probably 9-10 whites. But what stood out to me was this big old buff motherfucker, white dude with an M branded on, like a brand, like you do cows.
Oof. Corn
He got
fat
an M right
motherfucker.
there. He got an M right there, and on his back it says Misfit Mike. And he was the buffest dude in this dorm, and his face was towards me when he's talking to these guys, right? So my two homies and a few blacks came over there. They're like, look, it's probably going to kick off in here. You didn't roll them up. So they had these springs from the bed, and they had handles on them. They gave me this big ass long spring, bro. And I ain't gonna lie, I was spooked. I didn't want to kill nobody, and I knew I didn't know where to. I wasn't educated yet, Sam, man. I wasn't educated with the human you know, later on I got educated where all the kill points are. It's called the anatomy.
Grey's
I would
Anatomy.
know that, you know, your body, the anatomy.
Yeah.
You got to learn. You
Oh,
got to
okay.
learn where to hit someone to kill them. When you go to the hole, they teach you that, and I didn't know nothing. So they gave me this fucking 11-inch fucking sword with a handle on it, and they're telling me it's going to kick off. But now I don't want to. I don't want to stab Mr. Silly. I'm gonna stab the buff white dude over there because he's the biggest one over there. So sure enough, they have their little group meeting, and then they call my homie G-Man. Misfit Mike calls him over there, and him and my other homies over there talking with Misfit Mike and Mr. Silly, and now, you know, I get not nervous, but I get anxious. So now I don't want to wait. I want to do what I got to do and just be over with. Go the whole whatever's gonna happen. So I got my boots on. I'm ready to go. So I'm walking over there to him, and my homie G-Man's like, tell me to get back. But I got the knife out. I ain't even hiding it. I don't even know the rules of prison yet. To make a long story short, bro, um, the whites rolled Mr. Silly up because when I slapped him, I guess they didn't know I slapped
He
him.
didn't fight back.
Yeah, Mr. Silly was over there telling him what happened. Is his first time too. Told him that, you know, I slapped him, and they was mad at him because he didn't do nothing to me for slapping him, or went and told him. So they're beating him up. They're in the corner doing whatever they're doing to him, and the cops come in and get him, right? So now I'm thinking, shit, they're gonna get me next because I was, bro. Misfit Mike called me to his bed, and I got the knife. He's like, hey, you can leave that over there. And I'm like, no, I can't. He's like, bro, I'm coming at you like a man. I see you're young, and I'm trying to. Me and your homies are gonna try to lace you up. I'm not going for the okie doke. They do that in YA. They'll battery pack you. So I'm like, I'm not putting this up. So G-Man, my homie Dre come over there. They're like, look, man, we need to talk to you. So they, you know, they've been to prison. So they talked to me, and I stayed there. But check this out. I'm gonna tell you why I got in trouble for it. I didn't get DP'd right there, right? I go to Tracy. I go home. I'm home 16 days, and I go back, to Vacaville. And guess what? Listen, guess what? Mr. Silly is now on the main line, but he works in the reception center side as the clerk. Bro, I get back, I see him, he sees me, and I told you he's rich, right? He calls two northerners to his office, his office, and he tells them that I snitched on him 2 years ago on some drug case in the prison. So he don't know that I'm allies with the northerners, right?
Yeah.
He's offering to give him $1,000 to stab me. Every week in the back of a reception center side, they got the gym. They show movies. So in the movies, the two northerners come up to me. They're like, "Hey, dog, we just want to tell you about what happened today. This fucking they called they disrespected them. They called them the C word for whites. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They said that, they said that this cracker is trying to hire us to stab you. They say you told on them and got them rolled up for telling on them on some dope. What? So now I'm gonna just do this dude now, right? Now he's put my life in jeopardy. So I get one of my Crip homies, I get the two northerners, and we smash in his office. We go in his office. I'm like, and I ain't got a knife now. I'm just gonna beat him up. He's old now. He's probably 60. So I go in his office, and his eyes, bro, get this big. And I got the northerners he tried to hire with me, right? I'm like, Mr. Silly. I said, his name is Sealy, Sealey. I'll never forget this motherfucker. I'm like, Mr. Silly, I snitched on you. He was like, kind of. I said, what do you mean? He said, you told you told the whites that you slapped me, and they rolled me. And the northerners like, wait a minute. You said that he told on you because you were selling drugs. He said, man, fuck you. And the northerners left. That's all they needed to hear, right? They found out he was lying. I said, check it out, man. You're old. I'm here on a violation. You're very old. I said, I should kill you right now, bro. I said, I'm not gonna. I knew he would have told if I did anything. I said, but check this out. Next time you tell anybody about anything that happened back there, I'm gonna be like you, a lifer. I'm gonna do something to you. And you don't supposed to do that, threaten people. But I
Mm.
was so hot, bro, that I didn't feel like I had to do nothing to him. He was spooked of me. That's where I got in trouble at. My folks, because I didn't do nothing to them, DP'd me. They didn't DP me by putting hands on me. They had me doing burpees for fucking a week straight. And you could tell, bro, I don't like working out. In
Mm.
prison, out of prison, I do bare minimum.
Mm.
Um, I like to I like to drink white lightning. I like to gamble. Um, and I like to fight. I
Mm.
did. But working out, getting buff and all that shit, I just never got into that shit, bro.
I was never into pumping iron. I was always into cardio.
And back then it was mandatory that you hit the weight pile, you kept yourself in shape. But I would do more acting like I was lifting weights than lifting weights. I'd be over there on the weight pile, conversating, giving people cigarettes, and I get out and do a set, then I disappear. I just was and a lot of people wasn't into it, but a lot of people were. I
Mm.
just never got into that, bro. I thought buff people, and I found out later I was right. Big old swole niggas, they can't fight, bro. And the reason why they get swole is to intimidate you so you don't fight them. And
Mm.
that's the truth. I never seen a big old swole dude beat no one. I seen swole dudes get beat up. So
Mm.
I just it wasn't impressed. I didn't want to be buff, bro. I wanted to be in shape. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I got in
It
trouble that
fucks with
time.
your movement. Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
I got in
And
trouble that
so,
time.
go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead and finish with because I'm done with that conversation.
Yeah.
I just
So I was gonna ask you, man. So since you got so many times in the California, we gotta keep going. We gotta get to other things. And then what was your longest stretch consecutively in California, and where did they send you? And is that like when you got your shoe term and hit the 180s and all that?
right now my case that I just got out in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's stupid. It's stupid because it's the it's the lowest felony I've ever been to prison for. It was real estate fraud.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to prison for assault with a deadly weapon, everything that gang people go to prison for, drugs. I've been to prison for. 2008, 2008, I catch I catch a home invasion, attempted home invasion case. Me, a blood from Meadowview, and a broad, we catch a attempted home invasion case out at the river, and all they have uh is a relative of mine called the cops on me while I was there and told them I was about to do a home invasion, and then they got the guy I'm with from Meadowview. They separated us. He said we was going to do a home invasion, and they got one gun at the scene, but the gun was in the guy took grandfather's name, so they knew it wasn't mine. So I beat the home invasion. The girl beat the home invasion. The blood dude, he took a gun case because it was his gun, and he got 3 years. We beat the case. Okay, I was going home, right? He goes to the jail and calls the cops and tells them about my real estate fraud shit. So they ad booked me, and of course, I think I could beat the case because they didn't arrest me on this
Uh-huh.
on the street. And I go to trial on it. I lose 13 counts of fraud, and they gave me 15 years, 8 months with 80%.
Oh man.
And that's 2008. I got out 2018 March on that case, and that was 10 years, 9 years, 8 months, 22 days. That's the longest stretch I ever did straight. And and to be honest with you, I needed it.
Mm-hmm.
I because I was always in and out, 3 years here, 4 years here, come home, stay home 6 months, go back for 3 years, and I was in and out constantly, bro. It was like a revolving door. But when I got this 15 years, um, I'm a very sharp person.
Mm-hmm.
I got a mouthpiece on me. Um, I'm very sharp. I'm very smart with all kind of shit, not just with gang shit, but and not just criminal activity. I'm very educated, and
Mhm.
and so when I got to prison this time, uh, I thought it was over for me. I didn't think I was coming home because I knew I was going to a level 4 180. Never been to a 180 before this, and I knew that I was gonna stab someone. I was gonna get stabbed. It was gonna be right. I just thought 15 years, 8 months just seemed so long, a far stretch for me. I didn't think I was gonna come home alive, or if I was gonna be alive, I was gonna catch a life sentence. Um, Fortunately, Prop 47 passed in 2014, I think,
Mhm.
and I filed for it, and they knocked off 3 years. So I ended up doing 9 years, 8 months, 22 days. And that time right there, okay, let me tell you this. Before I went to prison, I owned one house, I owned several cars, and uh, uh, I had a savings account. And I had money. When I went to prison for that case, I lost my wife, I lost my son, I lost my cars, my jewelry, my house. I lost everything. So I was in prison by myself. I've never been to prison without one of my wives. I was married 3 times.
Mhm.
So I always had someone in my corner. I went to prison this time, just with me. No, I had females that I fucked on when I was home, but
Yeah.
I didn't have someone to run for me and stay with me for the whole time. So I had a fucked up attitude when I got there. Like I would raise my hand for anything.
Mhm.
So 9 years, 8 months, 22 days is the longest stretch I did, but I needed that because I did a lot of soul searching, bro. I did a lot of whole time on this last case. I think I did 4 years in the shoe. No, not in the shoe. I did a 2 year shoe term and a 16-month shoe term, but I stayed in the hole, bro. Like I was in the hole
Damn.
constantly on this case. But I wrote 4 books when I was in the hole.
Mhm.
Um, and I found out who I really was in the hole.
It was
I
an
knew
eye-opening experience.
I knew when I came home. I know where I'm from. I'm from 29th Street Garden Block Crip, but I knew when I came home I wasn't gonna be uh, kicking it with my homies from my neighborhood.
Mhm.
Some that I grew up with, but I knew all that time I did. I had one homeboy out here that did what I asked him to do, um, as far as phones and tobacco, money on
Yeah.
my book, you know. But I knew I wasn't gonna be fucking going to prison for no gang when the gang don't give a fuck about me when I'm in prison.
Mhm.
So that's why I needed that time. Um, I came home with the attitude I ain't going back to prison, but I did jump back in the dope game after 6 months, and I jumped in it at a level I never been in it before. I always sold weight back in the days, but this time I jumped in it with unbelievable weight, and I had to
We'll,
catch
we'll we'll get to that. I wanted to ask you, did they send you to the Corcoran shoe or Pelican Bay?
my. I went to Corcoran shoe, so I started out my term at Corcoran mainline.
Okay.
I never been to Corcoran before, and I know that's the biggest prison in California. So I
Huge.
started out prison, um, Corcoran. I think it was a yard back then. It was an active level 4 yard. I get there and I got hell of homies there, not just from my hood, but I run NC in the prison, Northern Crips.
Uh-huh.
So I got there. It was full of Northern Crips. There was a lot of us. So I get there. I didn't catch my shoe there, bro. I caught my shoe in Solano when I got level 3 points and dropped down.
Mhm.
And I went back to Corcoran from a level 3 main line. Um, and honestly, I like the shoe. Honestly,
Damn.
and
Even with the bedrock right next to each other.
that's in Folsom. I had that. I was in Folsom. Yeah, that I like that too, though. I'm gonna tell you why. New Folsom sales are like mini apartments. They're the biggest sales I ever been in.
I heard they're pretty big.
But the cell, I was on the bottom tier because I had a lower tier chrono, and the lower tier had bedrock where the beds are next to each other. But the cells upstairs, bunk beds, it's like no bullshit. It's probably the size of 3 cells, Soledad cells in one. And,
Soledad,
and
San Quentin. Ooh.
yeah, oh, San Quentin and Ofos themselves, it's probably 4 of those.
Hmm.
Um,
Damn, dude.
they're humongous because everybody, the majority of people there is lifers without parole, and they don't leave the cell because they're always on lockdown. So yeah, I've been to New Folsom, Corcoran, Lancaster. I've been to almost all the level 4s except I haven't been to Tehachapi, um, none of the Centinelas, none of that shit down there. But level 4, 180s, bro, and 270s is the best prisons I've been to. They're not the most dangerous. I touched on this, and I think you know what I said was the most dangerous, and people thought and people are still making comments on it. Pleasant Valley level 3. Let's back up a minute. I want to
Okay.
touch on something else. I went to prison as a Crip in '89. I get to Tracy, and and I guess I caught someone's eye, and whose eye I caught was Mousy Brown. Mousy Brown is a very well-known California Department of Corrections convict. He's dead now, rest in peace. He's from Oakland, and he used to be BGF JAMMA, but
Uh-huh.
he was sanctioned to start Kumi. I caught his eye in a BGF dude named Stay Cool, and
Okay.
and so uh, in 1990 they tried to pull me. The
Okay.
the the jump Stay Cool moved me in the cell with him, and I was young. We worked on the same job. We was on the sandwich crew at Tracy, so we worked together every day. And he was like, "Why don't you move in with me, dog?" He used to stutter, and I found out later on who he was. I knew he was BGF, but I found out later on who he was and why he was in prison. And there's books about this cat.
What
Um,
are the
he,
I'll
he's the
ask you
one that
after.
I think he killed the DA and tried to kill a judge in Oakland for his brother,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he was very well respected in there, and he knew that shit, that self defense karate shit. So I moved in with
Mm-hmm.
him, and he kept giving me books about Black history and Germany, white Germany, and Hitler and fucking Indian shit, Aztec shit. And I was like, what is this dude on? Crips don't do that. So later on, I found out he was trying to pull me. So
Mm.
I Crips and BGF cats in prison, they don't really get along at all. But I'm gonna tell you something. I navigated towards BGF cats when I first went to prison, and I liked them and I hung with them. I never um, took that final oath, but a lot of cops, because I got this dragon on my arm with the
Mm-hmm.
tail to the left and them spitting
Yep.
fire, that's the symbol of them, and I didn't even know that when I got this. So when I
Mm-hmm.
hit a yard and they see my tattoo, they immediately think that. I don't correct them. I'm not going to tell a cop, "Oh, I'm this." Do your homework. You don't tell cops what you are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm labeled as that in prison, but I'm not that. But
And they then oh, my bad, go ahead.
I just wanted to touch on that subject because a lot of people in CDC, they always, you know, I don't want to give away all the secrets of all these gangs, but there's a there's a greeting that certain groups do, and if you greet them back the right way, they know you're that.
I got you.
So anyway, I never took that, but I really to this day I mess with them on the street. A BGF cats, 2 of them.
Cool.
So they was more smarter to me and more educated and more prison savvy than Crips and Bloods back then. Now,
Makes sense.
and there was more of them. Now, Crips and Bloods, BGF is like you don't hear
Here and
about them.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
Um,
So yeah, that's how my education started with them cats. But
okay, so you were why didn't they since you had a tattoo, they could have it was only 3-point validation back then. Did they ever do an investigation for an indeterminate shoe?